There are signals that don't arrive in words. They appear in the way she leans in, barely, in the tension she releases without knowing, in a hug that lingers 1 second too long. Many men miss these moments, not because they can't see, but because they've never learned to read female body language when it speaks in silence. True attraction rarely announces itself. It lives in the pause, not in what she says, but in the way she stays. In the world of subtle attraction, the man who tries too hard is often the one most easily forgotten. But the one who knows how to respond to touch with calm stillness leaves behind something she can't explain. How to tell if a woman is truly drawn to you? It doesn't always show up in words. Sometimes it's hidden in a simple embrace that lingers for a reason unnamed. And if that moment slips by, everything that could have followed fades quietly with it. So what kind of hug can awaken what words never could, or quietly shut the door before it ever opens? It begins with a touch that ends too soon and says even less. It's the kind of hug that ends before it begins. Quick, polite, hollow, a brief lean in, a shallow contact of shoulders, and then a few awkward pats on the back, as if affection had to be softened by distance. This is not rejection, but it's not intimacy either. It's a placeholder. In moments like these, most overthink, did I do something wrong? Was there tension? Is she not interested? But a Stoic doesn't chase an answer. He notices the space between bodies, not as judgment, but as reflection. The hollow pat isn't a verdict, it's a snapshot of where comfort stands today, not where connection could be tomorrow. And that matters, because sometimes presence begins not by closing the distance, but by honoring it. To feel a hollow embrace and remain grounded, unshaken, quiet, is more powerful than trying to fix what isn't broken. Attraction isn't built in the grasp. It begins in restraint, in the calm refusal to overstep when the moment isn't yet ready to be touched. But then there are moments that don't demand answers, only stillness. There are hugs that don't seek answers. They offer stability, no rush, no withdrawal, just arms that hold with intention, but not control. A stillness shared between two bodies where pressure doesn't mean possession, it means presence. This is not the hug of new desire, but of trust earned over time. A space where female comfort begins to take root, not yet romantic, but no longer distant. Many confuse it. They mistake it for neutrality. They think if it's not intense, it must be empty. But that's not how real connection works. Seneca once wrote, "What progress if the heart cannot remain still in the presence of closeness?" This embrace reveals emotional connection, not through words or tension, but through the absence of urgency. It's the kind of hug where the body doesn't flinch, where neither pulls away too fast, where breath settles instead of shortens. The question isn't, is this attraction? It's, is this safety? And that matters more than most ever realize. Because before desire deepens, the nervous system asks for peace. And if peace is what she feels in your arms, that's a sign stronger than flirtation. And sometimes what stays unspoken speaks loudest. Not all silence means hesitation. Sometimes silence is what attraction sounds like before it finds language. There's a kind of hug where the clock disappears, where her body doesn't pull away because something inside doesn't want to. The arms stay just a little longer, the breath softens, time slows, but tension doesn't rise. This is not a request, not a declaration. It's a quiet invitation, a message written not in words, but in weight, warmth, and stillness. In this space, female attraction reveals itself not with action, but with absence. The absence of rush, the absence of resistance. And here's the paradox. The more grounded the response, the more she melts. Because what pulls her in isn't pressure, it's peace. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the space between stimulus and response." And this hug is exactly that space. A man doesn't need to do more. He needs to feel more, to remain still, to let the moment echo in her without chasing it. This is emotional intimacy without a word spoken, and it's in this silence that the deepest impressions are made. Until finally, there's no more pretending, just breath, stillness, and surrender. There is a moment when the hug is no longer a gesture, but a surrender, not dramatic, not loud, but complete. She leans fully in. Her head rests gently on the shoulder. Her breath slows into yours, and her hands no longer move because nothing more is needed. This is not affection. This is emotional vulnerability in its rawest form. No mask, no defense, just closeness, allowed. In this kind of embrace, desire does not seek to impress. It simply wants to rest somewhere safe. Many misread this silence. They think nothing is happening, but in truth, everything is happening. Beneath the skin, beneath the surface. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. But in rare moments, when the soul is still enough, it can also become a retreat for someone else." When a woman chooses to surrender in silence, what she's asking isn't for action, but for presence. No sudden move, no interpretation, just stillness that says, "You are safe here." This is nonverbal desire at its deepest, not a chase, not a test, but a quiet folding into something that cannot be described, only felt. And the only right response is not to break the moment, but to honor it, to hold not with tension, but with reverence. Some moments don't leave a mark on the skin, but they echo in memory. Long after the hug ends, what remains isn't the touch, but the energy that held it. The world teaches men to move fast, to chase, to impress, but few are taught how to simply stay still, long enough for someone else to feel safe. That's why most women don't remember what was said. They remember how it felt. They remember the breath they didn't have to hold, the arms they didn't have to resist, the moment they didn't want to end, but didn't need to explain. That's not seduction, that's subtle intimacy. That's masculine presence without performance. Emotional awareness, not as technique, but as truth. What lingers in her is not the perfect line, but the man who didn't rush the moment. So the next time a body leans close, don't ask what it means. Just listen and feel what it's asking for without saying a word. If something in you recognizes this, leave a sign, not for this channel, but as a reminder to yourself that you once stood still and felt